There comes a moment in life when every human being, even if they never say it out loud, feels the invisible weight of simply existing. It's as if there were a silent territory inside the chest, a space no one sees but where everything happens. The memories that guide us, the fears that tighten, the hopes that are trying to be born. That space, fragile and sacred at the same time, is where the Spirit lives. And the Spirit, contrary to what many people think, is not made only of light. It is made of layers, of memories that shine, of old wounds that still breathe, of questions that were never answered. It is exactly in this deep territory that the need for inner protection begins to appear. Not a protection that forces itself on us, but one that welcomes, that supports, that reminds the heart it is not alone. From the very first thinkers of humanity, we've always searched for something that could guard this invisible space. Philosophers called it essence. Poets called it soul. Spiritual teachers called it the sacred center. Every culture, in its own way, tried to protect what the world cannot see, but still manages to hurt. And it's at this point that the figure of Jesus Christ becomes not only central, but deeply human. Because Jesus did not walk this earth only as a spiritual leader. He walked as someone who understood the human soul with a sensitivity that crosses centuries. He could see the anxiety hidden in small gestures, the uncertainty tucked behind the eyes, the silence that revealed what words were too afraid to say. Jesus spoke less about rules and more about the heart. He knew the greatest battlefield is not outside, but within. Not in what we see, but in what we feel. Because he understood human vulnerability so deeply, he left teachings that go beyond time. Among these teachings, there are two simple, almost subtle words that hold a spiritual mystery as ancient as it is current. Two words that, when truly understood, become like a silent shield against the anxiety that paralyzes, the fear that empties us, and the darkness that tries to convince us we are less than we really are. These two words were never meant to be repeated mechanically or turned into an empty mantra. They are an invitation, a call to a new posture toward life, a different way of walking, breathing, and facing our own storms. They are words that not only guide, they transform. They are like doors that open into an inner world that is stronger, clearer, and more truthful. This video is a journey. Not a quick journey, but a deep one. A path that begins with discomfort, passes through philosophical understanding, and leads to the revelation of a teaching that can change the way you relate to your own fears. If you stay with me until the end, you will understand that the power of these two words is not only in what they say, but in what they awaken. Because they do not only protect the spirit, they awaken it to its true light. When we reflect on the human spirit, we realize we are dealing with something that crosses cultures, eras, and belief systems. The ancient Greeks called it pneuma, the vital breath that animates the body and carries the meaning of existence. For them, the spirit was that light breath that could rise above circumstances and remain whole, even when everything around seemed to be falling apart. In Eastern traditions, the spirit is seen as an inner spark, a silent flame that connects each person to the universe, to the whole, to what exists before words and long after fears. And when we turn our eyes to the figure of Jesus Christ, we discover an even more intimate and profound vision. The spirit as the truest center of the self, the place where eternal identity lives, the place where we are never alone. Jesus always treated the human spirit with tenderness. His gaze went beyond the surface of behavior and reached what was hidden behind exhaustion, insecurity, and silent wounds. He knew the human soul is as sensitive as a garden that needs care. He knew fear visits us often, that guilt weighs more than it should, that uncertainty walks with us through long nights. That is why he presented himself as a teacher of serenity, courage, and spiritual clarity. Not as someone distant, but as someone who knows the human heart from the inside. its storms, and also its possibilities for light. In his words, Jesus never tried to complicate things. He spoke with simplicity, but with depth. When he said, "Peace I leave with you," he was not offering a passing emotion, but inner protection, a gentle yet powerful shield against the chaos of the world. It was as if he were saying, "I know the world is heavy, but you don't have to carry that weight alone." That message, which has crossed the centuries, still echoes as an invitation to look within with more kindness and courage. The Stoic philosophers believe true peace is born from mastering our emotions and understanding reality. And in a way, Jesus anticipated this wisdom by teaching that the heart must learn to remain in peace even when life becomes unpredictable. He taught serenity not only with words, but with symbolic actions. One of the greatest of these moments was when he calmed the storm. While the sea raged and his disciples were desperate, Jesus remained steady. He did not only rebuke the wind, he taught the human mind. He showed that we are the ones who create inner storms when we forget the greater presence that sustains us. Throughout his path, Jesus reduced great truths into simple expressions. He knew the human soul doesn't need long speeches to be touched. It needs essential truths. That's why the two words we will reveal a little later follow this same logic. They are not a magic formula. They are not a promise of a life without problems. They are keys. Keys that open inner spaces of strength, clarity, and courage. And if Jesus chose every word so carefully, it's because he understood something we are still trying to grasp. The human soul does not heal in a rush, but through truth. It is not strengthened by brute force, but by lucidity. It does not find protection by running away from reality, but by understanding it deeply. That is why the two words he left us were chosen the way someone chooses a treasure, with attention, with love, and with profound knowledge of our weaknesses. As you walk through this video, notice the rising movement that is being built. The revelation is drawing closer, but it only makes sense when the heart is ready to receive it. Because these two words are not only meant to light the path, they are meant to transform the way you walk. There was a person who had been carrying a silent weight in their chest for many years, a weight that made no noise, but shaped every gesture, every decision, every breath. Their name could be anyone's, because, deep down, their story could be the story of any human heart. This person walked through days that all felt the same, as if life had lost its color. There were moments when even the wind seemed heavier than it should, and the sky, even when clear, felt covered by a haze that only they could see. Their spirit, tired, begged for rest, but their restless mind would not allow peace to come close. It was a constant sense of emptiness, an emptiness that had no shape, but filled everything. They tried to move on, tried to smile when others were watching, tried to hide their exhaustion in public, but something inside was slowly breaking, like a rock being worn down over time. Doubts piled up like stones on the road. What is my purpose? Why do I feel this heaviness? Is there something wrong with me? On long nights, when silence brought not rest but unrest, they wondered if they would be able to keep going. Their spirit was wounded, and they knew it, even if they could not put it into words. As months went by, this person began to feel they needed something beyond what they already knew. They needed direction, meaning, an answer that wasn't just rational, but deep. Then one day, almost on impulse, they decided to go for a long walk. It wasn't a planned walk, it was a quiet escape, an attempt to breathe differently. The path was simple, but felt endless. Pebbles cracked under their feet. The wind brushed their face as if it wanted to lift the weight they carried, but couldn't. Even so, they kept going. Walked until their thoughts started to quiet down, as if each step were taking them deeper into themselves. In the middle of that walk, something unexpected happened. They came across an elderly person sitting in the shade of an old tree. A serene figure, with calm eyes and a gentle expression, like someone who had learned to listen to the world with more sensitivity than haste. The elder lifted their gaze and, as if they already knew what was happening in that heart, smiled softly. A smile that seemed to understand without needing to ask. "You look like you're carrying a weight you don't have to carry alone," said the gentle voice. The person stopped. They didn't know what to say, but felt that this presence brought a kind of stillness they hadn't felt in a long time. They sat down beside the stranger, and for a few moments, said nothing. They just breathed like someone who finally finds a safe place inside their own silence. The elder then continued, "All of us carry storms inside. But sometimes we forget they can be calmed." The sentence sounded simple, but it struck deeply. It was as if someone had placed a hand over their heart and, for the first time in a long time, the weight got a little lighter. With time, the two began to talk. The person spoke about their doubts, their fears, their old guilt, and the constant feeling of emptiness. They spoke of sleepless nights, meaningless days, and pressures they didn't know how to name. And as they spoke, they felt each word easing something inside, as if doors that had been locked for years were finally opening. The elder listened with patience, didn't interrupt, didn't judge, didn't try to fix anything, just allowed the words to find a place to rest. When silence finally returned, the elder closed their eyes for a moment and said, "You know, Jesus left a teaching that wasn't meant to impress crowds, but to protect the spirits of those who suffer in silence. It's just 2 words. Simple, but as powerful as the light that cuts through the dark." The person felt their heart race. 2 words. How could something so small carry so much power? But there was something in the elder's tone, something that said, this revelation wasn't ordinary. It was like an ancient secret about to be handed over. "These words," the mentor continued, "are not a command. They are an invitation. When you understand them, not only with your mind, but with your heart, everything within you begins to change. It's as if doors open, as if veils fall, as if light passes through the darkness and reveals paths that were always there, but that you couldn't see." The person closed their eyes. Images began to rise in their mind, doors slowly opening, beams of light slipping through cracks, shadows stepping back before a new clarity. Their breath grew deeper, as if they were about to understand something their soul had been seeking for a very long time. But before they could ask what those words were, the elder placed a hand on their shoulder and said, "First, you need to face your own shadows. Only then will you understand the strength of what I'm going to reveal." In the days that followed, the person returned to that same tree. The elder guided them, not with rigid instructions, but with questions that turned their gaze inward. What have you been avoiding? What truly scares you? What part of you is asking to be heard? Each question was like a soft flame, illuminating dark corners of the spirit. There were moments of crisis. In some conversations, tears fell uncontrollably, as if the heart were finally pouring out everything it had kept for years. In others, there was pure silence, a silence that spoke more than 1,000 thoughts, as if the soul were finally exhaling in relief. Through this process of falling apart and searching, the person began to notice something important. Behind every fear, there was a sleeping strength. Behind the emptiness, a deep desire to live with authenticity. Behind the pain, a light that seemed to be calling. In one of their meetings, after a long inner journey, the elder finally said, in a calm voice, "You're ready." The person's heart started to race again. They knew the moment had come. The revelation was near. and for the first time since everything began, they felt their spirit strong enough to hear it. The elder smiled and added, "The 2 words Jesus left. They are about to be revealed to you. And when they are, everything inside you will find a new meaning." The hours felt quieter that day. The wind moved gently through the leaves of the old tree, as if even nature knew something important was about to happen. The person arrived with their heart beating differently, not out of fear or anxiety, but out of a deep mix of expectation and hope. The elder was there, sitting as always, with that expression of someone who knows secrets that cross time. When the person approached, the elder looked up and smiled, a smile that seemed to light up the air around them. "Today," the elder said, "you will receive what you've been searching for, even without knowing you were searching for it." The person sat down beside them. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was sacred, as if it were preparing their spirit for an essential truth. The elder took a deep breath and placed a hand over their own heart, as if wanting every word to come wrapped in light. Then, with a calm that seemed to touch the soul, they said, "The 2 words are, 'Stand firm.'" The revelation fell like a gentle lightning, one that illuminates without harming. The person repeated it inwardly. "Stand firm." So simple, so short. And yet, something inside opened. It was as if each syllable carried spiritual weight, a depth that couldn't be explained, only felt. The elder continued. Jesus used different expressions that carry this same essence. He said, "Do not be afraid." He said, "Take courage." He said, "I am with you." All of these phrases point in the same direction. Inner steadiness. A strength that doesn't come from the absence of problems, but from the presence of purpose. The person closed their eyes and allowed that phrase to echo within. Stand firm. Little by little, they began to realize that this wasn't about stubbornness or hardening the heart. It was something much deeper. It was an invitation to be present, to stop running from their own life, to keep the heart steady even when the world around seemed to be falling apart. It was as if Jesus were saying, "You are bigger than the fear you feel. You are bigger than the storm you're facing." The elder explained that, philosophically, standing firm means choosing awareness over chaos. It is deciding not to get lost inside your own emotions. It is being a root in the middle of the wind, a rock in the middle of the waves, a presence in the middle of the whirlwind. It is remembering that there is a center inside each of us that cannot be destroyed by circumstances. Spiritually, standing firm means trusting. Trusting that life is not a punishment, but a path. Trusting that purpose is not erased just because a storm has arrived. Trusting that Jesus never promised a life without challenges, but he did promise his presence. Presence of courage, presence of peace, presence of strength. The phrase, "stand firm," is like a key. When repeated with awareness, it reorganizes the mind, calms the heart, and strengthens identity. It is like turning on the light in a dark room. The darkness doesn't disappear because we fight it, but because the light has been switched on. That light is inner firmness. The elder described the phrase as an invisible shield, an armor of serenity that forms around the spirit, a light that surrounds the heart and keeps fear from ruling it. In spiritual traditions all around the world, from Christianity to Stoicism, from east to west, there is a common principle. True strength is born from inner stability. Stand firm is this. It is stability, presence, faith, wisdom. It is the reminder that even when life shakes, you can remain standing inside. The mentor then touched the person's hand and said, "When life challenges you, when fear tries to paralyze you, when the world feels too heavy, remember these 2 words. They won't remove the storm, but they will keep you on your feet." And in that moment, the person finally understood. It wasn't just another phrase, it was a spiritual anchor, a breath from Jesus carried across time, a protection that didn't come from outside, but was born within. When this revelation finally found its place inside the person's spirit, something began to change. Not in a loud way, but quietly, like dawn slowly lighting up the sky. And that is how the phrase "stand firm" should be used, with gentleness, awareness, and presence. It is not a rigid order, but a spiritual embrace, not a shout of strength, but a reminder of stability. In everyday life, this phrase becomes especially powerful in the moments when the heart feels most vulnerable. Before a hard decision, when your thoughts start racing like rivers out of control, you can simply close your eyes for a few moments and breathe. Inhale deeply, feel the air filling your chest, and say inwardly, "Stand." As you exhale, complete it. Firm. This small gesture does not change the world outside, but it changes how you face it. When fear appears, that kind of fear that paralyzes and casts shadows over the future, repeating these words calms the mind. Stand firm. It is as if your spirit remembers there is a center in you that does not collapse, a foundation that does not depend on circumstances. In moments of loss or longing, when emotion feels larger than your body can hold, these two words become an anchor. They help you breathe with more awareness, not be swept away by pain, and remember that even the deepest wound does not define who you are. And when your heart is restless, when anxiety tries to dictate the rhythm of your days, repeating these words brings you back to presence. It's a return to the now, a return to yourself, a return to the light. Creating a small daily ritual can deepen this practice. Inhale, stand, exhale, firm. Repeating this a few times, slowly, allows your mind to slow down and your spirit to realign. It is a simple gesture, but deeply transformative. Over time, you'll notice these two words start to act almost like a natural protection. They don't keep challenges away, but they keep them from destroying your peace. They don't stop the storm, but they keep it from entering your heart. And that's how this phrase becomes not just a teaching, but a way of living. As this journey draws to a close, something profound begins to reveal itself. Inner firmness is not just a momentary choice, but a spiritual force that renews itself with every breath. It is not born from the absence of difficulties, but from the ability to remain present even when the world moves like a restless sea. And when we look at life from this perspective, we understand that we don't need to control the waves. We only need to learn not to lose ourselves in them. Life, in its essence, is constant movement. There are days when the sea is calm and everything flows with ease. On others, the wind blows hard and even the simplest tasks feel heavy. But like a lighthouse that stays in place while the ocean changes around it, the one who finds inner firmness learns to keep balance even when circumstances try to knock them down. This stability is not rigidity, it is wisdom. It is like a tree that, even as it sways in the wind, remains rooted. When we think of Jesus Christ in this journey, we perceive something even deeper. He did not teach us to deny pain or run from challenges. He taught us to walk through them with awareness. His gaze penetrated the human spirit not to condemn, but to understand. He knew every weakness, every insecurity, every fear we've carried since our earliest steps. And even knowing all of this, he called us to courage. Not a harsh, aggressive courage, but the courage of firmness. The courage that is born when we remember we are not alone. Inner firmness is the foundation that keeps storms from defining who we are. It is the light that stays lit, even when the night stretches on. It is the silent decision to continue, even when the path is uncertain. And when we revisit the two words that carried this whole reflection, stand firm, we realize they are not just instructions, but a new spiritual identity, a way of existing in the world. When you choose to stand firm, your spirit gains protection, not a protection that isolates you, but one that strengthens you. Not a protection that pushes the world away, but one that allows you to face it with greater clarity. It is as if your heart begins to recognize its own strength, as if your soul remembers it was created to endure, to grow, to shine. And as we arrive here, at this moment of silence and deep understanding, you may notice that true protection does not come from words outside of you, but from the inner state they awaken. Jesus, with his loving wisdom, always pointed to this, to the strength born of presence, to the courage born of faith, to the peace born of awareness. So when life starts to shake again, and at some point it always will, remember that the storm does not have the final word. What has the final word is your decision to stand firm. Your spirit knows how to do this. It always has. You only need to remember. Now, as we reach the end of this journey, allow yourself to breathe more deeply. Feel the silence between each word as a sacred space where your spirit finds rest and your mind finds clarity. Because after walking through reflections, stories, symbols, and revelations, one question remains, echoing softly, but with tremendous depth. In what area of your life do you need to stand firm today? This question is not meant to be answered in a hurry. It is an invitation to look within, to recognize where your soul still trembles, where fear still speaks louder, where doubt is still trying to hide the light inside you. Maybe it's in a relationship, maybe in a dream you're afraid to pursue, maybe in a hard decision you've been postponing, or maybe it's simply in the way you see yourself. Wherever it is, allow yourself to see it with honesty. The phrase, "stand firm," is not a distant mantra. It is a daily shield, a quiet force that walks beside you. It is a reminder that even when the world throws everything into chaos, you can keep your inner ground. It is like carrying an inner light the wind cannot put out, a flame that doesn't depend on circumstances, but on your decision to remain present. Take these two words with you the way you'd carry a soft protection. Let them touch your mornings, your nights, your thoughts, and your choices. When you feel your heart hesitate, repeat them. When doubt approaches, repeat them. When you feel you're about to lose your balance, breathe deeply and let them hold you up. And now, before we close, I want to leave you with one last invitation. A sincere, human, intimate invitation. Share in the comments which part of this journey touched your heart the most. Not just to engage, not to follow a ritual, but because your reflection might light the way for someone else. Sometimes a single sentence, shared at the right moment, transforms an entire life. May you carry this quiet presence with you. May your inner firmness grow like roots in fertile ground. May your light stay lit, even when the night comes. And may you remember, in every new chapter of your story, what Jesus gently whispers to you across time. There is a strength inside you that cannot be shaken. Stand firm today, tomorrow, always.